Hi everyone, Lisa Haven here, and I've got one bombshell report to share with you guys. In today's report, I am bringing on Jerry Sheridan, who is running for sheriff here in Arizona. And this is a critical race because we are literally on the precipice of socialist, communist, or actually making America great again and being a free country. This is why I thought it was critical to bring him on. We are faced with rioters and looters in our streets every day. I know we've had our share in Arizona, and so much is happening, not to mention the fact that George Soros's organizations have been putting their paws, if you will, in a lot of our DA's offices and just kind of funding a lot of your socialist Democrats behind the scenes. So I wanted to bring on someone who had inside information. So Jerry, are you with me over there?
I'm here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited you're on. If you guys want to check him out, it's Sheridan, the number 4 sheriff2020.com. He's got all kinds of great information there. But let's kind of just dive right in. With this election season, are you noticing a lot of more turmoil than normal as far as the election is concerned?
Absolutely. You know, I've been on the campaign trail since February of 19, so almost 20 months now. And it started out kind of slow, but since January of 2020, things have been going crazy out there. There's a lot of excitement on the Republican side, and there's been a lot of animosity on the Democrat side. So it's been crazy.
So what would you say, because you're running for the sheriff here in Arizona, you're a Republican, and you're one of the few people that, in my opinion, are standing for freedom. And sometimes we fail to realize how important the job is that you guys do. And so with that, and in light of all the riots, how do you personally plan to handle the rioters and the looters that are in our streets today that I don't think are going to go away? And if President Trump gets in, they're even threatening, even emboldening that. What can you do? And the public, I should say. I'll add that too.
Great. Before I answer your question, let me explain first to a lot of people out there. They don't understand the role the sheriff plays in protecting the Constitution of the state of Arizona and the United States Constitution. I consider myself a constitutional conservative. The sheriff is an elected official. The sheriff is the only elected law enforcement officer in the country. So the sheriff plays a key role as the chief law enforcement officer in Maricopa County. Maricopa County is the 4th largest county in the country. It's got 4.5 million people. And here in Arizona, we have large counties. It's 9,226 square miles. So the sheriff's responsible for an awful lot here. And the duties and responsibilities of the sheriff, one of them says the sheriff is to prevent, suppress, affray, and riot. So now I'll get to answer your question. We know that the left, the anarchists, have threatened continued riots, especially if President Trump is reelected, and he will be reelected, especially here in Maricopa County is a key county for him. It was the only of the top 20 largest counties in the nation that supported President Trump in 2016. So we know we're going to have issues here. You need a sheriff that is going to have the guts and the experience to deal with these rioters, especially in light of the fact that many of the municipalities, Phoenix is the largest in the state, obviously, it's one of the largest police departments in the country, is now being run by the leftists, the Democrats. And the city police chief reports to a bureaucrat, the city manager. The city manager reports to the city council, which is mostly filled with Democrats. The sheriff does not report to anyone except the people, the 4.5 million people. Sheriff does not report to the governor. The sheriff does not report to a mayor, no one but the people. And that's important because to fulfill that duty and responsibility to suppress riots, the sheriff doesn't have to ask permission. So if the police chief fails to do their job in any municipality in Maricopa County, the sheriff does have the legal authority to take action. And I will take action. And I'll tell you how I'm going to do it, because this is kind of a fun thing. As a person that will support the United States Constitution, everyone has a lawful right to peaceably assemble. That's what it says in the First Amendment, and I will honor that, even if I don't agree with them, because I support the Constitution, I support people's rights. But the minute somebody throws a rock or bottle, it's game over. It becomes unlawful. And when it becomes riotous, it's an unlawful assembly. I will declare it unlawful assembly. I will give people time, depending on the severity of the criminal behavior, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes to disperse. And if they fail to disperse, I will disperse them using skunk water. And skunk water is something that the Israelis invented in 2007. And believe me, the Israelis know how to disperse large, unruly crowds. So once we spray them with skunk water, and what skunk water does, it makes people sick to their stomach. And it is very, very foul smelling, and that's how it does it, but it's organic. So the left can't really say that, oh, we're going to hurt you, Sheridan's going to hurt people and all that. It doesn't hurt you. It just makes you sick to your stomach. We've seen that tear gas and pepper spray and all that really doesn't work and disperse crowds. But skunk spray is absolutely effective, and your viewers should probably Google skunk water, skunk spray, and see for themselves, because there's videos up there, out there on the internet. And then those people that do fail to disperse, I will have my jail buses lined up and I'll give them a free ride to jail. And that's how it gets done. It's very simple. Law enforcement cannot back down in these circumstances. They have a duty and responsibility to protect life and property. And we've seen across this country where law enforcement has backed down, either because they've been told to, or because they failed to do their own duties and their own constitutional responsibility, because we all take the same oath.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. And I love your quote. And I'll throw this up, lawenforcementtoday.com, Arizona GOP sheriff candidate. That's you, Jerry. I will line up jail buses to arrest rioters. And that's why I think that's the kind of stuff that we need. And this is the other part of it that comes into play. We have your George Soros organizations of the world funding our DAs. And if you get a bad DA in there who just allows this, then we've got epic corruption. So at the very core of it, like you said, are our sheriffs, are the main people, and they answer to the people. This is why we, the people, can't have, a socialist Democrat in charge, because they will follow draconian measures, unconstitutional practices, and unconstitutional rights. If it crossed that line, are you going to stand with the Constitution, or where are you going to go in the fact that it breaks our freedoms and rights?
There should be no doubt in anyone's mind that I will stand and protect the Constitution and people's safety and property. Now, my opponent, the current sheriff of Maricopa County, took $2.3 million from George Soros, and he has done nothing. He has done nothing but hide under his desk during the civil unrest that we saw in Maricopa County, in Phoenix, in Scottsdale, and Tempe, that have injured people and caused millions of dollars in property damage. He has failed his duty to the people of Maricopa County.
And what do you think is going to happen in Arizona and even in our country, right? Because I know what happens in Arizona is happening all across the country. We're seeing likewise, in Washington, in, you've got Chicago, Seattle, all these different areas that have experienced likewise. What's going to happen to our country if we sit back and just allow the Democrat takeover to commence, or I'm going to rightly say socialist party to commence? I mean, what's going to happen in Arizona and across the country? What do you think?
Well, I think what we're going to have is anarchy. What we're going to have is a government that's out of control. And on the campaign trail, I've met a lot of people from refugees from communist countries. They are the biggest supporters of freedom and liberty and the United States Constitution. I just heard a story from a pastor just last week. He escaped communism. He said the group in the middle of the night in 1984, half of them were killed in the process of escaping from their country. And some of the others were captured and imprisoned. And he looked at me and he says, Jerry, he says, I just don't understand the American people. A lot of them don't get the fact that we have the freedoms and liberties here that you don't under socialism and communism. And he said, they take it for granted. And I says, yes, they do. We cannot take what we have here for granted. And the problem is, currently, we have George Soros going around funding it, and especially funding this go round, the county attorneys or district attorneys across the country, because he knows that if we don't have prosecutors that will prosecute these cases, for example, I'm the sheriff, I arrest these rioters, I put them in jail. If I don't have a Republican county attorney that is going to prosecute these people, they'll just go out the back door. And then if let's say we do have a Republican county attorney to prosecute these cases, if we have the judges and the legal system that doesn't punish them at that point, once they're found guilty, we've got problems. So, making an analogy with the Ghostbusters, with Paul Penzone, he's like the gatekeeper. And if the Democrat county attorney, if she gets elected, she's like the keymaster. And George Soros himself is like Zool. And so, this should scare everyone, because this potentially could happen, because Maricopa County is turning purple. We cannot allow that to happen. The sheriff, as the chief law enforcement officer of the county, is a critical position to keep freedom and liberty to let it reign here in Maricopa County. And Maricopa County is the largest county in the state of Arizona. And as Maricopa County goes, so does the rest of the state.
And I agree. And it's not, and that's the problem, is I see what's happening in our home state, at that level. I'm originally from Texas, moved here about 20 some odd years ago now, but, and I see the same things happening over in Texas, such a solid state. But so many people from, let me say, California have moved in, brought their policies with them. Not all of them. I have lots of great friends from Cali, but it's just like more and more of that mentality seems to spread, because it's like we're brainwashed by our computers, our televisions, our media groups, always pushing that leftist radical agenda on all of us. And I am at that point where this is our country and we're losing it. We're losing a lot. And since the left has a stronghold on the media, I think this is a point where America has to start waking up and understand we have to start electing the right people. We have to start getting the right people into office, because we are at that precipice. And I think we are at that turning point here in America. Now, you and I have also talked about the posse. Is that something that the sheriff could bring back or do? And explain what that is, maybe for people who don't know.
Okay. Well, the posse, it's not like the old movie Westerns where the sheriff runs into the saloon and says, hey, the stage was just robbed and I need a posse. And then the next thing you see is a bunch of horses riding down the street in a cloud of dust, and they go out and they catch the bad guys. The modern day posse, the sheriff's office, when I left, we had 1,400 posse members. They're very well trained. We do background on them, and they're dedicated citizen volunteers that put out their time, their money, and they ride along with deputy sheriffs. They take prisoners off their hands so the deputy sheriff can stay in their beat, and they take the prisoners down the jail. They provide expertise that the taxpayers of Maricopa County can't afford. A good example of that is the aviation posse. We had posse members that own their own helicopters, that own their own aircraft, that would do surveillances, that would transport prisoners, all kinds of things, that would search areas for people that got lost out in the desert. They provided all that service free of charge. And we had diver posse. These people were trained in very deep dives to recover bodies that the deputies don't have the training or the equipment, millions of dollars worth of equipment to do deep dives. And all those people are gone now because this Democrat sheriff didn't understand the concept of the posse. The posse has been a part of the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office since it began 149 years ago. My position is, as somebody that spent 40 years as a deputy sheriff with the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, is the posse is such an important part of the sheriff's office. It's just as important as the sheriff himself.
Good. And that's something we could bring back.
Yes, he's got less than 200. Only about 40 of them can actually carry guns, and they've actually been neutered because they can't do anything other than maybe just be there. He summarily dismissed the posse and got rid of it. He's a city cop, doesn't understand the culture of a sheriff's office. And I know that the ACLU didn't understand the posse because I had to deal with them when I was the chief deputy before I retired. And he's just been following the whims of the ACLU. And I'm sure George Soros, he gave him all that money. He's got to follow his rules, right? And I will bring that posse back full strength. Matter of fact, vast majority of my volunteers are former posse members, and they want to come back. They have a desire to help the public and keep people safe. And that's the primary function of the sheriff.
And I think that's amazing too. And when you're funded by George Soros money, like you said, you follow George Soros' lead, and you don't even have to have a real credential. And that's why we need to get someone like you and any other states out there that are facing similar problems. Pay attention to where money is going, especially with George Soros. I know there's a lot of information, or email me directly and I can help you look it up. But with that, I know there is also kind of our last little thing here, a big movement to defund the police. What do you say to that? And is crime going to increase if we start doing that here in Arizona, or even all over the country? Because I think what happens here will also happen other places. So what do you say about that?
Well, what I'd say is the current sheriff has already defunded the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. Hundreds and hundreds of people have quit since he took over in 2017. Currently, there are about 150 deputies short, and when you only have 560, that's a big difference. It's over 20% of the staff out there in a patrol car or detectives investigating crimes. He's already defunded MCSO. But you know what? In typical Democrat fashion, he's turned that around, and he says, I've saved taxpayers $40 million. I've turned back into the general fund. Well, yeah, you know how you save $40 million? You don't have $40 million worth of employees' salaries to pay. That's how you save taxpayer dollars. He's defunded the sheriff's office to the tune of $40 million already. My plan is very simple. I will trust the deputy sheriffs, the detention officers, to go and do their job. Matter of fact, the first thing that I'm looking forward to at the stroke of midnight on New Year's Eve, December 31st of this year, when I become the sheriff, I'm going out there and I'm going to go tell the deputies, just go do your job. You don't have to fear the administration. I'm going to go to the jails and tell them the same thing. And I'm going to dispatch, which, by the way, is at 40% staffing. These are the people that answer the 911 calls. Can you imagine 40% staffing? If you let that 911 call ring, how about waiting hours for a deputy sheriff to show up when you've got a problem? You can't do that. So here's my plan. I am going to recruit, once I get the sheriff's office back on stable ground, I get the morale back up, and I'm hoping it's not going to take that long, but I know we're not going to be able to change things overnight. Things are so bad at the sheriff's office, especially with the morale. But I am going to go, you ready? I'm going to go to Seattle and Portland and recruit those beleaguered officers that have it really bad and bring them here to Maricopa County so they could be deputy sheriffs and get back into the law enforcement business, because people get into law enforcement because they want to do good for their communities. They want to help people. That's why people get into law enforcement.
Oh, I love that. Go bring them in because they need work and they've completely dismantled them in some areas of the country. So I love that idea. But with that, any concluding thoughts? And then I know where can people donate to help what you're doing? And then how can they volunteer and all of that?
Okay, that's a great question because I cannot fight the George Soros money and the money that the Democrats have been pumping into the current sheriff with the donations that are coming in. You know, I don't know, one thing about Republicans, they're kind of stingy with their money. So any amount that people that are listening here can donate to the campaign would be a big boost, especially now since the current sheriff is going after me and he's got the media behind him. It's difficult to fight the media without having money in my campaign fund, and we're spending everything we can to do social media and radio ads to fight back. So you can donate at www.sheridan4sheriff2020.com. And the other area that you can go to find out about me, I put up a lot of videos, is on my Facebook page. Gerard Jerry Sheridan is my Facebook. We put out stuff every day there. We're very active on social media. And I would ask people to help and be part of the solution here and come across with a few bucks to help take back Maricopa County and make Maricopa County Sheriff's Office great again.
Perfect. And I personally have donated to his campaign as well. And I think that's, critical in today's day and age. So thank you again, Jerry, for coming on. I truly appreciate it.
Also, Republicans need to vote, and you need to vote down the Republican ticket from top to bottom. And certainly don't forget about that sheriff vote.
Amen to that. Well, thank you guys again for tuning in. All the information for Jerry can be found in the description box below, so make sure you guys check that out. Just as a quick reminder, please don't forget to check out my partner at hidewithlisa.com. If you guys don't have a VPN, today is the day to get one. With everything that we're faced with on the internet and the tracking of our information, one way that you can combat that to look as if you're on another computer completely, then you need to get on a VPN because it kind of hides that information. And right now they've got amazing specials at hidewithlisa.com. So get a VPN today and protect what you look at on the internet. Anyhow, thanks again for tuning in. I'm Lisa Haven, and that was Jerry Sheridan signing out.